It's Monday, June 29th, 2015. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, if one were to build a PC today, what should one buy? The answer's kind of to wait until September.
Let's do this. So this weekend, despite it being summertime, the weather was not the greatest weather.
It was actually really good that the weather was crappy because I had a lot of Kineticon work to finish, and had it been sunny, that might not have gotten done.
I also had a lot of Kineticon work to finish, as well as cleaning my apartment, which is the dirtiest ever. It was so dirty that I dusted, and the spot that I dusted immediately upon looking back upon it, as the dust sweepy thing passed over, had dust on it.
I gotta tell you, once I bought that fancy air filter and I just leave it on whenever I'm not home, that really cut down on the dust in the apartment.
But should I really spend some bunch of money on a big loud machine?
Thing is, the difference is I have more need of it because we also have a lot of bunny fluff floating around the apartment.
Also, I leave my windows open.
Oh, yeah. If you leave your windows open, that's your air filter versus Queen's at that point.
Pretty much. You should see the filth that is on, like, in the windows, like on the windowsills and whatnot.
I washed the outside of my windows not that long ago. The squeegee turned black.
Yeah, I need to get a squeegee. Anyway, that's what I forgot to buy on Amazon. Anyway, I
got a really good squeegee, by the way.
So after I did all the cleaning of I cleaned from the back to the front, so everything went out the front door, right? It's time to do the laundry that has been piling up. So I go to do the laundry, and my laundry room changed from using quarters to using a magic card a while ago, and I've talked about how you can hack the card or whatever, right?
Yeah, your apartment building also seems to have the slowest fucking washers in the world.
They're a little faster now since they changed them.
Mine are 22 minutes.
These are like 40-something minutes.
I could not live like that.
So
you live like an animal.
Maybe I'll bring my clothes here because when I went over to the fridge to get the card that is, attached to a fridge magnet, it was not there.
What? How do you...
Did
someone steal it?
I don't know. The card was gone, and the card is basically cache because it stores all its information in itself. There's no internet or database, so you could hack the card and fill it with a bunch of money if you could decrypt it. But the card was gone. I searched for it in all likely places, and it was gone, and I figured, well, there's only at most $40 on there, probably less.
There's only one option. You must have put it somewhere weird and forgotten about it.
I always put it back on the fridge, but it wasn't there.
Well, apparently you didn't.
So I went downstairs. I'm like, maybe someone left their card in the laundry room, and someone did. And I checked the serial number, and it wasn't mine. So I'd go to try to fill it up with money on the internet, because that's how it works. It's really weird. And it says, nope, that card belongs to someone else. Fuck you. And I'm like, alrighty then. So I filled out the form.
Wait, so you tried to steal someone else's card?
No, they
basically.
left it in the laundry room, just like it had been there for a long time.
Okay, how long? Like 2 minutes?
It had 75 cents left on it. It couldn't even do one load. So I put the card back, and I fill out the form to say, mail me a new card. But meanwhile, I can't do laundry. I can't put quarters in. You have to have the card.
Well, you could bring your laundry here, but that means going home and taking the subway and not
So
biking.
I gave up as much laundry as I could to the Greek lady to wash for me. I hope it's ready when I get home because I don't have any clothes to wear.
I am out of underwear. In fact, I bike to work wearing my bike shorts, but I can't wear those in the office because they're a biker diaper with the big pad on the butt.
The chamois.
So
the chamois.
I just took it off and hung it in the server room and just put on pants that I leave at work and was commando because I don't have any more clean underwear.
Just wear dirty underwear.
Well, so
or
I can
wear your loincloth.
I have boxers and loincloths, and those are fine. But I can't really bike to work in those or anything. My actual nice underwear, the super tight, the sports ones, those are all dirty. And dirty sportswear smells like dead things. That shit needs to be washed.
The smell won't escape your pants.
It might. Rabbit. It might.
Anyway, so that really sucked. I couldn't do my laundry.
It's funny how the failover scenario.
I couldn't even carry all my laundry to the Greek lady because I only have 2 laundry bags. When I pick it up tonight, I'm probably going to bring her some more.
You waited too long to do laundry.
I did wait a very long time to do laundry. I would have noticed the card missing probably closer to the time that it went missing because who knows how long it's been gone.
It's funny because my work had something happen where
it's a good chance it may have just fallen off that fridge magnet thing and into a bag and got thrown out in the trash.
That's not infeasible.
No, it's very feasible.
I would not leave something important stuck to my fridge.
It came with this magnet. Like, it was intended to be put onto this magnet. It has like a little card sleeve.
I have one drawer, and in that drawer is everything important.
I have a drawer as such, but that drawer also includes other things.
Yeah, you know what that drawer has? My wallet, my passport, my keys, my extra credit cards. My second wallet has the shit I don't have to carry everywhere I go, like Oyster cards and stuff.
I'm going to put, when I get the replacement card, it's probably going to be empty. I'm going to fill it up with new money, which sucks. But I will be sure to put it in a better place, and I'm probably never going to lose it again.
Yeah, you know, as much as I'd like a card like that in my apartment building, those systems I'm not super trusting of. Like the RIT one never worked that well either.
The RIT one was better because at least that one used internet.
Exactly.
This
Except
one-
when the system was down and then fuck you can't do laundry. No one can do laundry. There's no fail-safe fallback.
That's also a problem.
At least with quarters, as shitty as they are, the fallback is I can go to the bank and get quarters.
They should let you use quarters when the thing isn't working.
I, in fact, only recently
But
burned
then
through...
they have to send someone to pick up the quarters. That's why the system makes them so much money more than quarters do. Because now they have to whole employee they don't have to hire if the money just gets sent to them. Also,
That is true. Like,
they also get the money immediately. Like there's 75 cents on that card in the laundry room that no one's ever going to use ever. They got that 75 cents and no one had to do any laundry.
Yep.
They also don't have to pay for any water or any soap or anything. All they do is maintain the machines. That's it.
Yeah.
It's like install machines, maintain them, money just comes. It's the greatest business. Have one customer service person on staff for anyone who calls with a problem with their card.
Well, that's what, like, in the old days, like, crappy businesses run by old people, they'd rather you pay cash because they don't want to pay those credit card transaction fees.
Yep.
Modern smart businesses, they'd rather you pay with your card no matter what because handling cash is a pain in the ass. You notice how all modern hip businesses have a garbage, like, sometimes they don't even have a cash machine, like a cash drawer hooked up to their POS. They have an iPad with a square or something on it to process payments, all automatic. And if you pay cash, they're like, and they get out like a change box and just shove the money in there because cash is such a tiny minority of what they do.
Mm.
So in the news, this is relatively recent news. I'm kind of surprised how little people are talking about it. But this news builds upon a lot of things that have happened recently. And by recently, I mean over the last few years. So I'm not going to explain it all to you because, frankly, you can read this shit on the internet. But if you haven't been paying attention, USB 2 is like super old and obsolete. USB 3 has been a thing
I
for
have
a
a
long
lot
time.
of USB 2 devices and a lot of devices that use USB 2.
Now, yeah, but it doesn't matter because USB 3 is 100% backward compatible.
That is true.
The problem with USB 3 is that the cables on the B end are way different and kind of stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever see like a phone or a device, like a hard drive, that on the hard drive end has like a USB B connector with like this other bullshit connector stacked on top of it, or like a USB micro that has like another micro kind of stuck next to it, that is how USB 3 connected for the most part. So a lot of people, and also the A end is different. People just didn't realize
It's just
it.
the same shape, so it fits.
Yeah, but it has more connectors. Like
Yes,
there's
it
a bunch
does.
of different stuff.
Yes, it does.
So, long story short, Thunderbolt was sort of the successor to Firewire, which is completely dead at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Even though all pro audio stuff pretty much still requires Firewire, and that's not going to go anytime soon. As a result, that means I need Firewire because we still use a Mackie Onyx. I'm not replacing that thing. That thing was real expensive. But USB 3 kind of came about, is useful, is kind of adopted, but Thunderbolt, way faster, does a lot more things. USB 3.1 has come out. USB 3.1 and Thunderbolt 3 are going to use the same cable.
So even no matter what device you have, you're going to be good. You're going to see a lot of similar cables everywhere, replacing all the USB cables.
And that cable is going to use the USB-C standard. Now, I've talked about this on an older episode of Geeknights when I realized that nobody seems to know how USB works and what an A end and a B end is and why
now
on
we
the
got a
go was a
C end
bad
to deal
idea.
with.
So USB-C, it doesn't matter what direction you plug it in.
Much like a lightning cable.
Yes. But the important thing is Thunderbolt 3 and USB 3.1 are both going to use the same cable, even though they are very different formats.
Protocols.
Yes. So as a result, there finally is effectively one cable to rule them all.
Well, a lot of people are going to end up plugging in a USB device into perhaps a computer that only has Thunderbolt, or a Thunderbolt device into like a PC that only has USB.
There will not be computers that do not have USB for a long time.
There might be ones that don't have Thunderbolts. Like you buy a PC.
No, go try to build a PC with Thunderbolt. You're not going to be able to.
Right. So you buy a PC, it's going to have a USB-C port with USB 3.1. You'll buy some Thunderbolt device and plug it in, and it'll be like, what?
There's actually a good reason why that's probably not going to happen. So Thunderbolt is way expensive to implement. Devices that use Thunderbolt 3 are going to be pretty expensive and specialized things. So pretty much people who don't know better are going to end up buying USB stuff and plugging it into USB. I can't imagine many people will buy Thunderbolt things and try to plug them into devices that don't support Thunderbolt.
It could happen.
But Thunderbolt
It's gonna happen
3
at least once.
supports dual 4K displays.
Yeah.
40 gigabits per second, 100 watts of power bi-directional. So you could have a computer charging a thing or a thing charging a laptop, theoretically, same cable, same port.
Right. So this is made by Apple, and of course, Apple just loves external things connected with cables. They hate opening a computer and putting stuff in. They think it's more, the standalone device is beautiful, but then in actual use, it gets bundled in a mess of wires because you got to plug it into everything. Whereas a PC, it's like, okay, I'm a little bit ugly, but you know what? I don't get any uglier because you put everything inside me.
Well, we're kind of past that, though, because a modern computer, like if you have a workstation, you're going to have a bunch of SSDs inside of it, and then you connect to a SAN or a DAS or a NAS for all your big-time storage. And then, like, mouse, keyboard.
What's a DAS?
Desktop attached storage.
Oh, okay.
The difference, it's like the difference between,
Drobo.
If you get a Drobo with Thunderbolt, the idea is you plug it into your computer, and it's
a big
super
external
fast.
hard drive.
Yeah, it's a big external hard drive that's super fast. You can, like, edit video off of it.
You can't share it with anyone unless you use your computer's sharing.
Exactly. But Thunderbolt, the thing is, this is really Intel's thing, and, Apple is irrelevant. The important part is this is going to be a standard for PCs and for pretty much everything going down the road. So we're finally standardizing on a pretty good cable and a pretty good set of formats. And my only concern is whether or not pro audio hardware is going to catch up anytime soon.
And given enough time, I think, I can see this kind of cable only be... This is like sort of like the... I don't want to say it's the Blu-ray, but it's like the DVD of cables, right?
It's the last cable.
There will be another cable after it that some people will use, but this will be the last cable. Wireless stuff will replace this cable, right? Wireless charging is actually somewhat there now. You can charge small batteries with it for realistically.
Because remember, this cable also is not going to replace long-haul cables. That's going to be fiber and
Obviously,
stuff like that.
we're talking about local, serial device connections, right? This is going to be the DVD of cables. Wireless will take over afterwards, the same way that digital has replaced physical media.
Yep.
And so eventually all devices that still have cables that are consumer things will be using this kind, right? Phones, everything.
So if you're thinking, so Rim, you're talking about building new computers. Should I think about this when building a new computer? Fuck no. Thunderbolt 3 is not going to be in a computer you buy anytime soon.
I thought if you buy a Mac today, it'll have it.
Yeah,
but if you buy the trash can,
you listen to Geeknights. If you want a performance desktop, you're going to buy a PC.
Sure.
So my advice to you, if you want to be forward compatible in regard to this, is to, one, stock up on cards that will do FireWire, like a PCIe 1X card that'll do FireWire. Find one, they're like $20, that works with all your FireWire shit. Buy 4 or 5 of them because they're cheap and hoard them. Because FireWire is dead.
And then the next computer you buy does not have a PCI Express slot.
Yes, it will, because PCI Express has continued forever. We'll talk about them in the other bit. Do you know what the current PCI Expresses are? Like
X32?
No, it's still X16. It's the same as it was in 2008.
Okay.
Except there's 2.0 and 3.0. So there's the 16.4 versus the 16 or dual 8s.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk about it in the main bit.
Whatever.
My computer's way obsolete. But do that and make sure whatever motherboard you get, if you buy a new computer, has 2 PCI X16 slots for your video card and maybe 2 video cards.
Maybe 2. You don't need 2 video cards.
Yeah, that's a good way to be forward compatible. But
Don't need it.
make sure you've got a PCI X4 slot, 4X, because that is the slot you'll need at minimum to buy a card to plug in that will give you Thunderbolt ports in Thunderbolt 3 when that shit
Or
comes.
USB 3.1 ports.
Yeah, USB 3.1 could go there too. But,
Anyway.
yeah, but PCI Express, the 4X slot, make sure you got one of those. I guess you could use the 16 slot. I guess that would work maybe. I'm not really an expert on that, so
There is
YMMB.
no tech news to speak of. That you can tell because Rim didn't do tech news either.
There's tons of tech news. You just don't give a shit about
It is the worst. If we had to do tech news roundup today, we would be so fucked.
The Supreme Court just ruled that they're going to let the lower court's ruling.
They in fact did not rule. They said, yeah, we don't care.
That's a ruling. They
not a
said
ruling.
their ruling was they said they'd hear the case, and then they let the lower court's decision stand, meaning you can't
I thought they
appeal.
denied the writ and said, we're not listening.
The lower court's ruling stands.
Uh-huh.
The lower court's ruling was complicated. It was basically that the APIs and all that stuff
Could be copyrighted.
Can be
but
copyrighted.
You can still use them because fair use.
no, that there is an argument to be made that Google's specific use may have been fair use, and there is a separate court case to be had
Uh-huh.
for that.
Well, that's the important one.
The problem is, they should have ruled the other way.
Well, yeah, that would have been much better.
Because the road we're going
but
down
it's still not the end of the road. End
is
of
a
the world.
dark road.
If-
However, Swift might be the way to get out of that dark road, down the road.
Whatever. All
Yeah,
right,
that's
so
tech news.
So since there's no tech news, I want to talk about a tech thing that I've purchased and used recently.
Ooh.
We found out about this thing thanks to our friend Alan who works at YouTube. He told us about the Cerevo Livewedge. The Cerevo Livewedge is a thing that is very expensive. It's like $1,000. You might be like, whoa, stop talking about how rich you are. It's like, look, I was very hesitant to purchase this $1,000 device.
I almost bought it, and then Scott messaged me and said, yeah, I bought one.
I
So
bought
then I
it,
didn't.
so whatever.
Well, I'll put it this way. This is 1/10 the cost of a TriCaster,
Yes.
which is what we want, but we're not going to buy.
Exactly. If you think about it that way, right? It's like my camera is $1,700. You can get it for less than that now, but I bought it when it was brand new. It's a 4K, like ultra amazing video camera, but you know what? The Red camera is like tens of thousands of dollars. It's like, well, that's a good deal then, right? It's like
Exactly.
those are the best. If you can afford it, the best things to buy are those things that are still expensive, but have like amazing features that approach the levels of the ridiculously professionally expensive things, but aren't quite there. And that is what the Livewedge is.
So
with
it's that edge between, because we talk about this a lot. There's consumer stuff like a Sony camcorder you just buy.
yeah, at Best Buy.
Yeah, there's pro stuff like this is a studio camera. It costs tens of thousands of dollars. It doesn't come with any lenses or the power supply.
It has this gigantic lens. A guy has to sit on a truck with it next to the football stadium.
There's prosumer, which is kind of the level of I have a weird use case that normal people don't care about, but I do not need what like George Miller used to film Mad Max.
I bought the more expensive GoPro instead of the cheap one.
Exactly. Like, but I think the line
With
between
some accessories for my surfing videos.
the line between consumer and prosumer is I have a use case that consumer stuff can't handle. Like, for example, for live streaming, which is what Scott's about to talk about with the Livewedge. If you're a consumer, then you're probably just going to buy...
You can use a webcam,
Yeah.
or you're just going to use some software on
You're
your
going to use like
computer.
XSplit, maybe, or probably just OBS.
Right.
It'll all just work fine.
If you're more serious, you'll buy the Elgato.
Yep. The Elgato is not a professional piece of equipment.
No.
But it edges into that prosumer territory because it's a dedicated piece of moderately expensive hardware that
It's like
solves...
$100 and something bucks.
Yeah, and it solves some problems that a lot of people who are doing live streams do not have.
I want to live stream my Xbox.
Yep. Or I want to live stream a device with a separate device.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to live stream my computer with a different computer doing the actual streaming, possibly with multiple cameras or audio or whatever.
Yep.
I have a complicated use case.
Right.
The Livewedge is kind of like it's in that twilight zone between prosumer and professional. It's
So
either
it's made by some weird Japanese company called Cerevo that no one
Yep.
ever heard of. And the way it works is it's really quite small. You didn't realize how small it is until you get it. And on the back are 6 HDMI ports, 4 of them are inputs, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
One of them is the output. That one you plug into a TV and you'll basically see what is being streamed in real time. And the other one is the preview, and that shows you on the TV if you plug it in. Basically, it cuts your TV into 4 boxes like GoldenEye, and you can see the 4 inputs, right, and what they are. So you can, like, if you have 2 TVs, you can sort of have the actual output and the 4 boxes, and then you can sort of switch between the 4 inputs like it's a real TV show. Like, camera 1 is, Rim's face, and camera 2 is Scott's face, and input 3 is, the board game they're playing, and input 4 is, like, the logo, Geeknights logo, and you switch between the 4 like it's actual TV.
Yep.
It can also do picture-in-picture, so we could put like the Geeknights logo in a little square in the corner and like do like the nightly news does on TV, where it's like it appears and disappears and changes pictures, right? And to populate that, you could say have a laptop with the logo full screen with an HDMI output going into output, input number 4, or you can just put a bunch of JPEGs or movie files onto an SD card, put the SD card into the Livewedge, and use any of those images or videos as a camera. So, like, if you have a recorded video, you can make that, right? You can, like, do a whole fucking nightly news show with this thing. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, the other important thing is that it has all those sort of features for command and control. Like, you can also have a separate from all that audio channel.
Yep. There's a red and white RCA audio input that is separate from all the other... you still get audio inputs on the 4 HDMIs, but there's a separate audio input, so you can have, like, just commentary while you switch between different views.
So think about this. Like, here's the example use case.
You're watching a karate tournament, and there's 4 mats where people are fighting, and you're the commentator, and you can, you see the fight starting on mat 2, so you push the second camera, you start talking, that fight ends, you switch to mat 3, that kind of
deal. So
you
set it up to where, like, the audio
you got 4 cameras with 4 HDMI cables coming in.
Yep, so if the audio from each of the 4 cameras will come in, whichever one you're looking at, maybe at, like, half volume or quarter volume.
You can, there's a mixer, you can switch it.
And then at full volume is you talking no matter what, you talking through the mixer that's then connected to the Livewedge.
Yep. Now, how do you control this Livewedge? On the surface of the Livewedge, there's a little LCD screen. It's like a really crappy LCD screen. You can control it a lot through that screen, surprisingly, because there's a big wheel with a button in the middle, like an old iPod on the right, and you can use that to work with the interface. There's also 4 buttons underneath the screen that let you switch between the 4 cameras. It doesn't even have an on-off switch, just to plug it in to turn it on. It's kind of ridiculous. I guess it can also record to the SD card. I guess it's worth mentioning, but the most important thing is that it has an Ethernet port. So you plug it straight into the internet. That's right. You don't need... The Elgato needs a computer to do streaming. You have to plug the Elgato with USB into a real computer that then does the streaming part with software. The Elgato does all the streaming on its own. It is a standalone streaming device. It requires no computer. You can have the Livewedge, a camera, internet, and you're good. No computers necessary. No laptops, no nothing. So... to control it, what you actually do is use your iPad. I think it's iPad only. There might be, I don't know if there's iPhone software. I think it's iPad only. You can either A, plug the Livewedge into the internet with Ethernet, and then connect to the Livewedge with Wi-Fi. The Livewedge, you tell it to become a Wi-Fi access point. You connect your iPad directly to the Livewedge and then open up the Livewedge app, and now you can control it with the iPad. Or you can, if you have really good Wi-Fi, have the Livewedge connect to the internet with Wi-Fi, and then as long as you connect your iPad to the same network by Wi-Fi, it will see the Livewedge on the network and connect to it with the app.
So now you have an awesome tiny screen just to control all this stuff live.
On the screen, on the iPad, you can control everything. The picture-in-picture, which camera, mix the audio, the settings, check the YouTube, check the Ustream, check whatever. You can do everything in the iPad app. It's a little bit finicky in the user interface, but since they got some firmware updates and some app updates, it is now stable. Like, there's no crashy bits or anything. It's just a little finicky interface-wise. It also does some other fancy shit, like green screen and chroma key type stuff. You can resize the picture-in-picture and move it around. It does transitions, like when you switch from camera 1 to 2, you can do a cut or a fade or a wipe or all kinds of, right? It does all this kind of stuff you don't realize that it can do.
And now,
until
you
mess
can do
around
that
with it.
stuff in post-production if you're making like a big video.
But this is live stream. It does it, right?
Yep.
Real time.
So think about the two uses. Either we can live stream complicated events with high production values, or we can record things like we normally do, but we can do most of the post-production live. So like the Daily Show, you upload the video that night instead of a week later.
Yeah. There's only one flaw that I can find with the Livewedge, and that is it doesn't actually stream in 1080p's. It streams in 720p's max because it's not like it has some crazy, ridiculous CPU in there, with a whole ton of RAM and a video card to process MPEG videos, right?
Which in a way is fine because then
But the thing is,
idea-
people don't even notice. Like, they're watching your stream and, like, 720p looks fucking great.
Yeah.
Especially if your input is good. If your input is high quality, the output is going to be high quality, right?
Though I got to say, because we uploaded our first 4K video to YouTube.
4K looks really good.
So
but you're lucky if your computer can play it.
Yeah, so like I cannot display 4K. So
you don't have a 4K screen.
No. So to test it, I opened it in VLC and I had it show 1:1. So despite my two monitors, it's like this huge image, like I can only see a part of the image at a time at 1:1 pixel.
Yep.
Let me tell you, it looks amazing.
Sure, why wouldn't it?
Yeah, even with like the low shitty light, and you were just like carrying the camera around.
Right, but for example, with my camera, I could have my camera record in 4K while outputting to the stream. So that way we could live stream and then later on take the recorded video from the one camera, right?
In fact, so think about this with Premiere and like post-processing. Here's an amazing workflow. You run the Livewedge. All the cameras are recording to their own individual SD cards, audio and video. Our Marantz is recording audio to its compact flash because it's ancient and uses compact flash. The mixer is also sending the audio, to the Livewedge. The Livewedge is recording a 720p video of the final mix, all the cuts and everything.
Yeah, I don't really I mean, Livewedge, I said it can record and it can, but I'm not a big fan of it.
No, here's what you do. So it's recording the actual mix with all the transitions and everything.
Oh, just use that for the synchronizing and Premiere? Yeah.
And it's live streaming. Then, after the event, Scott just gives me all the SD cards.
You're going to have to put a really big SD card in that Livewedge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I dump all the SD cards onto my computer. I drag them all into Premiere, and I say, sync all this shit up. And then I just replace all the video clips from the 720p live stream version with the 4K clips from all the cameras and have the ultra high quality version to upload.
You could do that.
Yes.
I've tested various things with the Livewedge. I tested like output from HDMI on my not my Xbox, but like, my HTPC right into the Livewedge, totally worked. Laptop right into the Livewedge, totally works. GoPro HDMI cable into the Livewedge, totally worked. Right? The only time I had a problem was when I had like an HDMI splitter and put one half of it into the Livewedge. It didn't really like
That's
that
the
very
one
much.
thing the Elgato is useful for. If you want to live stream a game on a TV, but you're playing that game while you live stream it.
Yeah, that's the thing is that the one feed, that's the thing. The Elgato has an HDMI output with no delay on it. So you can play a video game that's being live streamed with that HDMI pass-through on the Elgato. If you try to do that with the Livewedge, there's going to be a delay. It's not going to go well in your favor. You need the HDMI splitter, but the HDMI splitter, at least the one that I have, the Livewedge did not like the output from that splitter.
Now here's the problem. That is the fault there is HDMI and its bullshit copyright protections.
I don't know if it has to do with the copy protection because I was using output from just my HTPC, which is not HDCP.
But it's still the way HDMI was designed.
I think it's just because I have a cheapo splitter, and if I bought a fancy splitter, it
But
might
HDMI
work.
is not designed to be split because that was an avenue of piracy.
Sure, maybe.
Yeah, that's one aspect to it.
Anyway, but yeah, if you do a lot of live streaming, or if you have to do some fancy live streaming where multiple cameras switching in real time is a thing you're going to want to help you out with, you should consider buying or renting this Livewedge deal. It's really small and portable. I don't recommend using it unless you are near a spot with, obviously you need to be near something with power, but you can get power from like a big battery or something. It doesn't take a lot of power, but you need to be near some wired internet or some ridiculously fast wireless internet.
Unless you're using it just
Or
to
it
record.
won't be enough bandwidth to stream.
Unless you're using it to record and then upload later.
But that's the nicest part is that like it just sort of like really, you go to like YouTube, you make a new live event, you go to the iPad app, you see the event there, and you just push stream, and you don't have to worry about any of these finicky settings or anything. Like even though the interface is kind of clunky, it gets it right. It just streams, and the stream, as long as the internet is good, it just streams great. And in fact, even when the internet was bad, it streamed as good as you could hope for in given the bad circumstance.
Now, also stay tuned because Scott's learning how to use this thing really well, and we've like upgraded our lighting and like all our other equipment and like those microphones. The only reason we haven't been doing a lot of big content is we don't have a studio, so doing big video content means I literally destroy my entire living room for a full day or a full weekend, and 2, it's got to be crappy weather outside, or we're not going to do it.
So yeah, if you consider the Cerevo Livewedge. Or not. They make some other products too, but I don't know about those.
The Livewedge is the best tool that does that unless you have tens of thousands of dollars to spend.
And if you really need 1080p's, right? Maybe wait for the Livewedge 2.
Yeah.
But maybe I could just, when that comes, maybe I'll sell the Livewedge 1, buy the Livewedge 2, or you see how much
Or you keep the Livewedge 1 because a lot of times having a secondary device can be really, really useful.
Daddy 2 streams.
Well, no, like YouTube, you can have your primary and secondary stream. So YouTube,
Yep, you can
if your primary stream fails, it'll just cut to the secondary stream seamlessly.
Sure.
So you can have the 720p backup stream going over like a different ISP or something.
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, things of the day. This is just some white kid who raps really, really, really fast, and it's actually pretty impressive.
White kid, I mean, that's somewhat impressive, but you spent way too much time practicing that. Did you have anything better to do with your life?
He seems to be doing a little bit. He's got a lot of those like Barker. I don't know enough about terminology, but he is ad-libbing some of it and using those tricks to keep going even when he lost the thread.
Anyway.
But it's pretty impressive. I like this kind of thing.
So there is an event every year known as the Goodwood Festival of Speed. It is it's sort of like Otakon, only replace anime with cars. You can consider it like that, sort of, right? And at the Goodwood Festival of Speed this year, recently, someone broke this particular track, and where it goes up a hill. It's like this little uphill run. It's about a mile long, and they race various things up this hill. And one of the things that someone raced up the hill this year was a Nissan Juke. And they raced the Nissan Juke up the hill to see what time they could get to try to break the record. And it's like, well, how could you break the record in Nissan Juke? Well, it wasn't just the record for fastest up the hill. That record was set in this other video that I'll also link by an F1 car in 1999 when they actually had real engines.
41 seconds?
Yeah, right? It's a 2-minute record. Set for going up the hill on 2 wheels and not a bicycle or a motorcycle, a Nissan Juke, which has 4 wheels, but they only use 2 of them.
The best part of the video is the advertising banner on the bottom of the car.
That is very nice.
It's kind of amazing.
This guy who does this is apparently like one of the world's best stunt drivers who does like shows and all this kind of cool stuff. Like he'll get out of the car and get back into it and do all sorts of ridiculous shit. So I'm going to try to find that guy's name and search for him on YouTube and see what kind of awesome shit he's done. Maybe I'll be a fan of his.
No. In the meta moment, we have uploaded a ton of videos. The most recent one is our 4K video walkthrough of the PAX South, the first PAX South Expo Hall.
I watched this video. It actually wasn't bad.
Yeah, like it is twice as good as the first time we attempted that. We learned a lot.
This video is not awful. A little bit of shakiness.
Yeah,
I
tried to use a lot of filters, see if I could like get rid of the shakiness. Technology's not quite there yet.
I'll bring the is that when I forgot the monopod?
Yeah, I think so.
I won't forget it next time.
Yeah, but stay tuned. We're getting better at that crap, but I think we're a lot better at doing that sort of thing.
Do you want to buy me this much fancier monopod that has a Manfrotto clip on the top?
You might be better off buying that second Marantz.
I'm going to keep using my $20 monopod.
But yeah, the video's actually, the thing is, it was so long ago that when I watched it to edit the video together, because we walked through the expo hall for like 3 hours, and I cut this thing down to like 20-something minutes of just the interesting things we saw. There's a lot of interesting games that I forgot about that I gotta go back and see if they came out yet.
There were a lot of interesting games, but when I saw them, I'm like, yeah, I don't need to play those.
Yeah, except Video Ball.
Video Ball.
I just want Video Ball to come out.
I also only want Video Ball.
I want Video Ball more than I want most things. I kind of want to, though, also, one of the games that we were really excited about, that it was a free space shooter that looked just like way pro. Apparently it's an MMO.
Okay.
So I don't know. that could be good if it actually relies on skill, because I'm pretty good at flying a spaceship and shooting people. But if it requires leveling up, But anyway, we'll see about that. I think Elite Dangerous was the game.
Oh, that's like famous because like the flying like super matters and stuff. I've heard a lot of crazy shit about that.
Well, we watched the guy at PAX, and that was
That's
a legit free space shooter.
Like, is that the one where like you gotta like even docking, you have to manually control the ship, and like shit is crazy in that game. That's the kind of thing where like that's your whole life if you do that.
Yeah,
you should maybe investigate that. That's might be your
because
alley.
yeah, maybe.
I've heard some things.
But yeah, otherwise, the book club book is the first book of, I guess, the 8 Wheel of Time books.
Are there 8? Are there
I don't
more?
know how many there are.
It's called The Eye of the World.
It's a fantasy story about some fantasy people doing fantasy stuff.
Wizards, kniggets,
yeah,
magics,
gender-based magic primarily.
Adventures,
yeah,
swords, even shields,
the Heron Blade,
horses and armor,
proper nouns. He's not
Kings,
a fighter. He's a warder.
evil dudes.
She's not a wizard or a mage. She's an
who have
Aes
scary
Sedai.
names in made-up languages.
That guy with the boat got fucked and kind of deserved it. Did you get that? Did you read further?
No, I watched Oromonogatari instead.
They're not in the same genre. They don't compete. But yeah,
they compete for time.
that is true. Otherwise, Connecticut is coming up in 2 weeks.
Super soon.
Hartford, Connecticut, the weekend of July 9th.
If you are a nerd and listening to this, and you are within distance of Hartford, Connecticut, you have no excuse, unless something more important is happening in your life, you should be at Connecticut. Oh man, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it is.
It is not the biggest convention. It is not the best convention, but it is the best convention per capita that I know of. In terms of the amount of awesomeness per person, I know of no convention that beats Connecticut.
Like Connecticut is a better gaming con than any non-PAX, non-MagFest gaming con in America.
That I
Like,
know. That I
straight
have. I
up.
mean, maybe there's like a VGG con or whatever, but it's like those cons that are full on 100% gaming, like Gen Con and Origins, like they got issues that Connecticut do not have, right? Panels. How many? We might have more panels, I think, than
one year
the biggest
we had
conventions.
one
even
year
though we
when
are not the biggest convention.
When we had 11 panel rooms. We've cut back a little bit, and we've paced ourselves a little more. We had like 288 panels.
Right. And also, if you consider all geeky conventions, right, from the top of Maine going south, it's pretty much Anime Boston 1, Connecticut 2. There's no other big convention out in that geographic area, right? What next? What's the next convention after that? New York Comic Con is the next one after that geographically. Yeah. So why the hell would you miss Connecticut if you are in that area? Seriously.
Yeah, Connecticut is on the...
Where else are you going to go? Like the sad... washed up pro wrestler next to the sports card table place.
We're not just saying this because we run the entire panels and workshops and special events department.
I would go to Connecticut if I was not. I might even just quit Connecticut to save myself some work, but still go to it and enjoy it.
There are the number of cons we would go to not being guests and not being in charge, less than 7.
We have friends that come to Connecticut and work with us on staff, but we also have many friends who go to Connecticut, pay money for badges, and play games the whole time, but also go to some panels.
Yeah. The con is legit.
It's really legit.
Yeah.
Go listen to some really old episode we did about an early Connecticut to laugh.
In fact,
For a good time, listen to Geeknights 2006 Connecticut.
The only problem with Connecticut is the problem that most cons have. There is just no food over there.
You can eat the convention center ice cream for whatever it costs.
Oh my God, there was a year where I ate...
It's open late.
One day, I think on Friday, that was the year back before we'd fixed
If you
a bunch
approach
of stuff.
Connecticut from the Albany direction, you can go to DeBella's, and if you approach from the south, you can get to DeBella's in Milford, Connecticut. Don't approach from the east. Just bring food with you.
Yeah. No, drive past to Milford, buy
That's
DeBella's.
way south.
It's worth it.
That's like not worth.
I would detour up to an hour to get to Bella's.
But meanwhile, you're taking a bus or a train?
I'm taking Amtrak because fuck that noise.
That doesn't stop at DeBella's, does it?
No, but multiple years in a row, I've been stuck in ridiculous traffic on a bus or in a car trying to get home from Connecticut to New York. So
will find a way around this problem.
just take the Amtrak. It's like $40 each way. It just
Maybe
goes.
I will take a train, the Metro North train,
Oh.
and then take a car from my mom's house.
We were debating actually, because remember that one year you, me, Emily, and Judith took the train, and then we took the car from your parents' house and hung out there. Like we ate food even, and we stopped on the way home. It was a good time.
Mhm.
Yeah, that could be good. Anyway, yeah, Connecticut, like,
And then I can go to Tibet.
you can go to if you stop.
Should I take a picture there and not bring you a sandwich, or
Scott?
should I bring you a sandwich?
I'll pay you.
Should I be like my uncle who showed up at the All-Star game that we gave him tickets to in Boston with a sandwich that he got at the deli near his house in Queens, but did not have more than one sandwich? Or should I be a nice person?
You should get me a DeBellas.
Should I get you a DeBellas, but perhaps not the one you asked for, or perhaps just a small?
The small would almost be the worst because that's just enough for me to enjoy it.
Maybe I'll give you a small and then secretly give you a second small of a different kind.
I can't think of any DeBellas sub that I wouldn't eat. I mean,
I will get you lettuce only.
I would eat that because that bread.
I will get you lettuce on the bad bread choice.
Oh, no, it's got to be the sesame.
So no seed. The plain bread.
Who gets the plain bread?
The plain bread with lettuce.
So,
Or even worse, plain bread with just American cheese.
in terms of the history of me buying computers, because Scott and I both posted the history of computers, because as you said, in 1994, Rim got a 486 SX2. That was the first computer that was in my house.
Yeah, I guess mine was 95 because I was 13.
But
I
you
got
got
a
the
486
486.
DX4 100 megahertz. 4 megabytes of RAM, later upgraded to 8 or even 16, I forget.
Mine had 4 and I upgraded it to 8
I had
because
a 4X CD-ROM. I could install Doom 2 like bam. If I ran out of space on my 700 and something megabyte hard drive, I just uninstalled Doom 2 and installed something else and then reinstalled because it took like 2 seconds.
I
would play games off the CD-ROM. It was so fast.
I had a 2X CD-ROM, and more importantly, because I only had 4 megabytes of RAM,
That's half as much X as I had.
to play Doom 2 or Doom, I had to use a boot disk or hold F5 when I booted to go into minimal DOS mode, loading no drivers, manually
Well,
load a mouse driver.
I had the vastly superior PC DOS on this IBM computer. you see,
No.
that originally came with OS2 Warp that I later replaced when Windows 95
It's weird
came
how
out.
Scott and I were like completely out of sync in terms of computers. At any given time, one of us had a computer that left the other one of ours computer so far in the dust it was a
It seems
joke.
like such a small difference, right? What, a 48650 versus a 48600? It's like
twice as fast. To have a computer twice as fast as my current computer, you can't.
I was able to play MechWarrior 2 on the full settings if I full installed, which I could if I deleted a lot of stuff.
So in 1997, I got a Pentium 200 megahertz.
Whoa.
That computer was a god tier computer.
Isn't that the computer you brought to RIT?
No.
Oh.
So in 99, Scott got a Pentium 3.
Oh, yeah. I bought that with the money I earned at working summer camps
That
and
had what?
also
That
the
had
dry
the
cleaner.
that had the BX motherboard, right?
That is the first computer that I built with my hands. It had the BX chipset, the most reliable motherboard chipset to ever exist. That shit never blue screened even one time. It booted at the first go, and it even when I stopped using that computer, it still worked just fine. If I could find it, I bet it still works. I think it might be in my closet.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Now, it's interesting because there was a long plateau in the Pentium 3 era. 400, 450, 500 megahertz. Like, computers did not get faster very quickly for a while.
Nope.
And to go faster was expensive.
That Pentium 3 450, also, when I bought it, the day I bought it, it came with, well, it didn't come with, I bought it with, I built it, the TNT2. The TNT2, by the way, was the brand new video card at the time.
Oh,
it was
how
basic.
cute. How cute. You bought a video card that had OpenGL. And I had one of the first video cards that had OpenGL.
This was the first video card that was for reals. The other,
Yup.
there were previous video cards like
well,
the
there was the Voodoo 2 bullshit with their
Right.
glide drivers and
Whatever.
their half-color gamut.
But there was the TNT, which was like sort of, this was the TNT2 though. That was like a major, that was like basically the first modern video card that had real power.
Was that AGP?
I could
Or
play
was that
half,
still PCI?
you know,
I don't
it was
remember.
AGP. It
Yeah.
was AGP 4X. I could play, all the modern games like the Half-Lives and the Quakes and all those games at the full FPS. Shogun Mobile Armor Division,
Yep.
all the late 90s, early 2000s, Tribes 2.
Now
All those games I could play.
Now what's interesting is Scott bought that computer in 1999, and compared to the computer I had at that time, it was like my computer was garbage.
I bought it in 99.
Yeah.
Not 92.
No, 99, but mine was 97.
Yep.
So 1 year after Scott got that Pentium 3.
2 years, Rim's computer was garbage.
Yes, but 1 year after Scott's Pentium 3, AMD went
I
from
brought
being...
that Pentium 3 to RIT. Rim brought a new computer to RIT.
I brought an AMD K7 800 megahertz fucking monster. That
the
computer...
full tower.
That computer...
The full tower.
Was
I'll never forget that
so
full tower.
That thing was
It was
huge.
so tall.
It weighed like 30 pounds. Like, that thing...
It wasn't even full. It just had a bunch of scuzzy shit in it.
Yeah, I had a scuzzy
It could have
Plex store
easily been a
burner.
mid-tower, even a mini-tower, but he just put so many drives in it and stuff, like
Yeah.
CD-ROMs and
I had
whatever.
RAID. I had a bunch of hard drives raided together. I had a scuzzy bus for all my shit. Oh my God, that computer. That computer. Think about that difference. But what happened was AMD came onto the scene and said, yo, dog, you want a processor that costs like a quarter what Pentiums do?
Are you a poor college student who can't afford these overpriced Pentium 4s?
Now, before that, the K6s were about as fast as the Pentiums, but not nearly as reliable.
No.
You had to be a nerd to make that shit work.
Greg Hartman
Yeah.
had
but,
the K6 too.
Yeah, but like if you got them to work, they were way cheap and they were as fast. But the K7 was like double the speed.
Yep.
So, yeah. Then we leapfrog back and forth for a
Yeah,
while.
later in the college years, I bought the Athlon, which again was much more speedy for the price, but very unreliable.
Yep.
I was very disappointed coming from the BX chipset motherboard.
Of course, right around that time, I had to replace my AMD K7 with a Thunderbird. It was a 200 megahertz faster.
Oh, that was the capacitor explosion.
Yeah, the capacitor explosions. We've talked about that era.
Sure.
But
Yeah, talking about unreliable, BX chipset don't have capacitor explosions.
in 2007, 2008, we actually synced up. We both bought the same computer, the Core 2 Duo.
That was when we were in the Beacon days.
Yeah. Then I needed a faster computer because we were starting to edge into doing video. And my computer was having some bus issues because of that jank-ass 8-bit motherboard I had. So I bought the Core i7 920 in 2009. The computer I built in 2009 is the computer I am still using to this day.
Yep.
Scott, meanwhile, a few years ago, bought
2012.
a much faster computer that is still an i7.
Yeah, I mean, my computer already is 3 years old. I bought it in July 2012. And if you look at the computer Rim's thinking about getting, the only difference between the computer Rim is thinking of getting is that it's 0.5 gigahertz more.
Yep.
And that's like, computers change so much. We're like a 1 year apart between a 48650 and a 48600. We were like a couple years apart between a 450 and an 800 meg, right? And now we're like 3 years back, and it's like, all right, same amount of RAM, pretty much video cards. Like my 680 can still play all the games just fine, even though it's 3 years old. Really? It's like, what do I don't need any upgrades at all. I'm going to probably, every computer I've gotten has lasted 4 to 5 years. This one's probably going to last 6 or 7, probably. Maybe even 8.
So if you bought a computer pretty much from 2011 onward, there's not really much reason to buy a new computer anytime soon unless
Moore's
yours
Law
breaks.
having some trouble in the home PC department.
Yeah, but my computer's from 2009, so that might not seem like that big a deal because, like, I have a Core i7. It is wicked fast. Like, I edit 4K video on this computer, and it works pretty well.
GPU does most of the work.
Uh,
You would be surprised how much work a GPU does. That Core 2 Duo, I upgraded the GPU at one point, and that made, even though I didn't change anything else, suddenly everything was way better in the games department.
Yeah, to this, my computer now, if I turn off that CUDA renderer in the previews, and I try to even watch a video in Premiere, all 8 of my hypercores just go 100%.
Yep.
And stay at 100%.
Yep.
But, so my computer does not have USB 3.
Whoa.
My computer does not have...
Mine has mostly USB 2, but still in the front and the back has a couple USB 3s
Scott,
each.
USB 3 did not exist when I built my computer.
Wow.
My computer does not have PCI Express 3.
Whoa.
I have two...
I don't know if mine has 3. Mine might only have 2.
I have two 16X PCI Express 2, meaning there is a warning from my GTX 770 video card that says, yo, dog, you're not getting the full power of this video card.
Mine might only have 2. It might not have 3.
M.2 did not exist as a form factor.
Yeah, no, I didn't have that. I don't have that either.
Yeah, but you don't need that really yet.
No.
I only have 3 gigabit per second SATA, not 6.
Oh, I have 6.
Yeah, I do not have 6.
Yeah, I have 6.
So the bottlenecks in my computer...
But not on my drive support 6.
So here are the bottlenecks I'm running into. One, if I want to use like OBS to like live stream a complicated game on my computer... Now, some things I can use my GPU.
Well, you can use the NVIDIA to help you out with that.
I can for some games, not all games.
Oh, mine works with XSplit because I paid for the XSplit. I can do it with pretty much everything.
True, but like OBS will also use the video card.
If you want to use the shadow play, you're saying.
You won't use the shadow play, but I can still use CUDA to do the rendering.
Right.
But there's all these ancillary things going on. Like if I'm doing an emulator, like emulators are not that CPU efficient. And there's a lot of things. Basically, 3 gigahertz is the sweet spot. You want to be just above 3 gigahertz.
I got 3.5.
I've got 2.7. That's how fucking old my Core i7 is.
Is there really that much difference between 2.7 and 3.5?
Yes, there is for
I guess
a few
between
things.
2.7 and 4, that'd be a big difference.
Yeah, that's the
right?
thing. If I build this new computer for like $400, not even, I can have a 4-core, 8 cores with hyperthreading, 4 gigahertz Core i7.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. But there's also the other things I'm running into. My OS is on a spinning disk because when I built this computer, when I built the computer, I installed Windows on a 32 gigabyte SSD. Because let me tell you what, in 2009, SSDs were not cheap. Nowadays, Windows won't fit on a 32 gigabyte SSD.
Yeah.
I transferred it to a spinning disk. It would be a giant pain in the ass to transfer it back to an SSD.
I have a small SSD, but I also have a big one that I bought. I have a 256 and a 128. Nowadays, you can get like terabyte ones.
Yeah. So
But-
here's the thing. If I build a new computer, I can get a 512 gigabyte M.2 SSD, which it looks like a RAM chip.
Yeah, pretty
and
much.
literally just stick it in the motherboard
Yep.
on a special connector.
Yep.
So my
you
OS...
you don't even need SATA ports.
Yeah, my OS and all my
Which
apps...
is the best part about that is that you don't need to wire a cable from the power supply over to the drive.
Yeah.
You just put it in the motherboard, it's done. That's
Yeah.
the best part of it.
Yeah. So the other thing is, it'll be 6 gigabits per second instead of 3. And I/O is the single biggest bottleneck. Now, not even the fact that Windows is on a spinning disk, because actually, that doesn't matter much because of ready cache and I have, so much RAM. Like, that doesn't matter.
Yep.
My computer is slow when I reboot it for like an hour, but once it's like everything's cached and in RAM, it's fine. When I'm doing video editing and I got a bunch of 4K videos, they're on SSDs. They're on 3 gigabit per second SSDs. That's actually not enough, and my disk I/O buses max out when I'm doing a lot of things.
The other real bonus of the M2 thing is that you can have a really small case.
Yeah, I really don't like big cases
It's like
anymore.
the GPU and the power supply are the only big things left that go in the case. Otherwise, you could pretty much have a flat motherboard, right? And that's it. You could have like this really flat computer that's ridiculous.
Yeah, like the video card is
except for
gonna
the
take up-
fact that there's a GPU and a power supply, right? If
Well,
you could
and
just
I'm gonna
shrink
have a bunch of express cards for like FireWire and
right,
stuff.
but like if you don't need the other stuff, you could maybe lay the GPU sideways and save a ton of space, but that power supply is just hanging on the edge there. It could
Yep.
still be really, really small though if you wanted it to. Maybe a specially shaped power supply, like an L-shaped one.
Yep.
I don't know.
But, all these other things like USB 3, I'd really like to have.
Yeah, that's good to have.
So I was specking out, and I spec'd out what computer I'd build today. And I spec'd out 2 versions. I spec'd out I need to shave money where I can. Like, yeah, there's a $350 motherboard, but this $210 motherboard is pretty much just as good. Like, you can shave like 800.
What is the difference between a $350 and a $200 motherboard?
So you want to know the difference?
What
So-
could the difference spot? Why would I ever buy the $300 motherboard? That makes no sense.
Well, one,
I can't imagine what it does
So,
that I would need.
here's what I've been thinking about. And I realized this because I did an experiment in 2009.
That's a ridiculous motherboard you don't need. I can see it from here.
It is a ridiculous motherboard you don't need, except there's a few things.
What? It's ridiculous plastic covering it to make it look not cool, but
the plastic
gamery.
cover means you don't have to dust it.
That's bullshit. Just have a positive pressure case. Next.
No, you'll still get dust in there.
Whatever.
So, one, if you amortize the money you spend on a computer over the useful time you have...
These are the things someone tells themselves to buy the $300
No, the moral of all this at the end, Scott, is I'm not buying this computer.
Okay.
I'm not buying it.
Sure.
But I'm going to tell you the things this motherboard
I'll
has.
remember what this motherboard looks like if I see it again in person.
There is
have
no
something to say.
reason cheaper motherboards could not do what this motherboard does.
All right.
So one, this motherboard actually has a pretty clever thing. It has this cooler built into the motherboard.
Every motherboard is.
No, not like this.
You're believing the advertising on the
No.
on
So
the brochure.
this cross-cut like cooling thing would actually be really good.
Okay.
If you're gonna overclock, which I'm not gonna, so it's not useful to me.
Right.
Don't need to overclock. The processor I'm gonna buy is 4 gigahertz stock.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But so here's the thing: when you put RAM into it, you don't have to push it down with both sides and then click it. All the cards, you stick them in from the side and just push them down from one side. They're designed to slide in from an angle with only one clippy.
So this thing you're going to do once in your entire life,
Yeah.
which is clip RAM sticks into the motherboard, you're willing to pay an extra $100 for that
what-
experience of clicking RAM
Scott,
sticks in once.
what did I just say? I'm not buying this computer.
I'll take the harder to click in RAM sticks for $100 savings, please.
It's also actually reinforced on the bottom with these big steel plates, so you can just fucking push on it if you
That
want.
one time that you put the motherboard in the case, you don't have to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one time.
I've seen people push RAM in, hear a little click, motherboard's fucked.
Yeah, they suck.
Well,
Next.
also, they're usually buying some crapo motherboard.
Yeah, anyway.
Yup.
Next.
Doesn't really have much else to offer that actually matters.
Fuck this. Why are you even talking about this stupid motherboard?
Other than it has twice as many USB 3 ports as any other one of those
Oh,
motherboards.
how many?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then it
I
has
have 4. It's
it
not
has
a big deal.
6 USB 3s, 2 USB 2s, and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I have 4, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah. But other than that, like the more expensive motherboards, unless you're overclocking or doing something weird, like they have all these things that only matter if you're fucking with the computer a lot. Like it's all these buttons and
Yeah,
things
if you're
on the
taking
back.
RAM in and out all the time to test a bunch of different RAM sticks, absolutely I'm buying the extra $100 motherboard.
Yep. It's got like extra buttons. Like you can do a memory test just by hitting a button on the motherboard without even
Oh,
booting
I
it.
do that so often.
Yeah. But so that's
I'm
what
always,
I'm
I'm
saying.
always slightly wary of stuff like that. Like, really, is there a problem with this motherboard that I need to keep doing memory tests all the time? Maybe
Well,
I
yeah,
should
again, if you're like overclocking or some crap.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even then, think of it this way. The weird, crazy motherboard is like $100 more than the normal motherboard. Like, it's interesting how the prices don't actually really scale that much. There's still a really minimal range of prices.
$100 is a lot because that's 33% of the price.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of a computer, if you're buying a computer for upgradability, the money I spent on that computer in 2009 amortized until 2015. All the things I spent money on forward compatibility kind of washed out.
Mm-hmm.
But the real sweet spot is that right now there is pretty much one processor to buy. The Core i7-4790. It's 4 gigahertz. It's $350. It's 4 cores.
Costs as much as a fancy motherboard.
Yeah, but you can buy the much cheaper motherboard and this processor. And
That's the good move.
it comes with a stock cooler that works just fine.
Yeah,
If you're not going to overclock, which you shouldn't.
shouldn't.
32 gigabytes of RAM is like $150.
I still have 32 gigabytes of RAM was cheap when I bought my computer because I had 32 gigabytes of RAM then and I still do now and I've never filled it up even when I had like a virtual machine minimized and I was playing a full screen
Scott,
game.
I filled up my current computer.
and an Adobe app open.
My
minimized.
current computer's RAM is actually really slow.
And my web browsers are open and minimized.
You want to know how old my computer is? My computer has something that disappeared. 6 DIMM slots, 3-way interleaving in the RAM.
Whoa.
That's gone. That
Okay.
doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
So I have 6 DIMMs in my computer right now.
I have 4 8s, I think.
Yep. But yeah, for like $1,200, you can build an amazing, badass computer, assuming you already own a
Oh,
video
my
card.
computer was like not that much money. Well, maybe actually was this the time that I spent too much money? I forget.
Yeah, I looked at I went through all my old Newegg invoices to
I think the
figure
reason
out.
I can't look at it right now, but I think the reason mine is expensive because I went all out and got the ridiculous 680, which is like the top of the line video card at the time.
Yeah, see, this assumes I'm not buying a video card, but
Oh.
it assumes I'm buying a really fast M.2 SATA, like, 6 gig per second.
Yeah, I don't include the storage in the cost of the computer.
I'm including the storage because now storage is the primary bottleneck.
I may have to buy some storage though, even though I'm not buying a new computer anytime soon because I have SSDs. I have a big SSD. I think it's a 512, for my OS and program files. And then I have a smaller one. I think it's a 128 for like the Adobe app swap space.
Yep, I have a swap space
It
drive.
used to be my primary SSD when I had in the Core 2, and then I moved it down.
I just cascade all the SSDs down to less important duties.
And I've got a NAS, which has all my backups and all sorts of other stuff, but I still have some giant magnetic discs for like my documents, my photos.
Yeah, so nowadays I was
Right.
looking.
Videos.
You know how much a 2 terabyte 7200 RPM spin and disc cost?
How much?
$60.
Are you sure that's not the weirdo, cheap, unreliable
Seagate
one?
Barracuda, like, you know what? Just buy 4 of them and put them in a RAID 10. Like,
Right, I think when Windows 10 comes out, I think I'm going to buy and replace my magnetic discs with some other bigger ones so I won't run out of space for videos and I can
I'm going to have
more
all,
comfortably edit the videos.
I'm going to have all SSDs for everything except like video that I'm not working on anymore. And like photos and stuff for there. I'm just going to get like 4 2 terabyte drives and just RAID them up and just stick them in the case. Because that'll make my Lightroom workflow a million times easier, frankly.
Yeah, I just wait for Windows 10 so I can do the clean install and everything will be beautiful.
Yes, also Windows 10 is going to have some really fancy drive volume stuff, so like wait for that.
Like how's that going to work?
So you know how Windows can kind of do like RAID stuff now on its own? You just know
Sort of.
It can. It's actually pretty good. It's not worth it. The word on the street is that Windows 10's volume management obviates the need for some of that motherboard bullshit RAID. And you can
So you just tell it like, hey, these 4 drives, they're actually one drive and it just does it?
And this is the kind of parity I want. And it's actually performant and cool, and some smart people have been telling me some
I feel
stuff
like
about
I don't
this.
want any parity in my computer, right? Because I'm
Oh,
basically...
yeah, you do.
I'm just using backups on the NAS, which is parity. I want more space and speed in the computer.
Yeah,
on
but
the thing I'm
drives
working on
are
right now.
so cheap that just do a RAID 10. I have 4 discs. 2 of them are just mirrors of the other 2. The discs are
I need more
$70
space in that.
each. You'll have 4 terabytes of usable space. 4 terabytes of usable space, 100% redundant with double throughput on reads. That'll
I
cost
guess
you.
right now I've got a 1 terabyte and 2 500. So I'd
Scott,
be
that'll cost you
doubling my space.
under $400.
Yeah, it's cheap.
That's cheaper than a Drobo, and you
so
don't have to
cheap.
buy some proprietary external thing that then, Lightroom freaks out because, like, the NAS is asleep or whatever.
That actually would be nice, though, if you could get, like I was talking about before, the small computer, if you could just, put the video card on the side and make the power supply smaller.
Yep.
If you can get the really small computer that still didn't sacrifice anything power-wise, then the DAS suddenly becomes great sitting next to that, right? Because you can just, like, shove the DAS under the desk somewhere with a long cable, hide it away, keep the small computer within reach so you can hit the power button, and then it's just all monitors everywhere, mouse, keyboard.
Yeah. So anyway, the whole sum of all this is what I decided is, like, Scott doesn't need to upgrade. I do need to upgrade, but there is no reason to upgrade right now because when I built my computer in 2009, it lasted until 2016. The computer I built in 15, I guess, because I'm going to buy it before the end of this year, but near the end of this year. September is when to do it. Wait till September.
Why September?
Because if you wait a little bit longer, Intel Skylake is coming.
Okay.
The next Intel architecture. This is the talk. This is the architecture change.
Big one.
This replaces Broadwell. Broadwell had a really short life.
Okay.
Skylake actually is a big jump forward.
What are they doing in Skylake that's so big?
Skylake 1 is going to support DDR4, which is already starting to appear.
Okay.
So DDR3 is reaching end of life. Skylake specifically is going to backward compatibility support DDR3.
In case you have some 6-liner around.
So you can build a new computer at the end of the year with a brand new Skylake Core i7, like ridiculous thing, but with existing RAM that's super cheap. And then 2 years later, when DDR4 is cheap, just upgrade.
Mm-hmm. Is it going to be that much faster to have DDR4 instead of 3?
DDR3 was that much faster than 2.
Was it? I don't
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah, there was RAM getting faster mattered a lot. It's just we've been in this DDR3.
Like I don't
PC,
even
like,
notice the difference.
What 1333 for a long time.
Anyway.
Yeah. Also, having more RAM, having it faster kind of matters. There's tons of other stuff in Skylake, but the gist of it is that Skylake is going to start having support for things like Thunderbolt 3 and the motherboards and the chipsets. Supposedly, there's a new chipset coming, the Sunrise Point.
They're just coming out with crazier and crazier names every day.
As far as I can tell,
Sunrise Point.
Skylake is the next like really big microarchitecture shift from Intel. So if you're gonna buy a brand new computer,
Might as well just start using. We should make a computer hardware company that makes PC parts and use all cyberpunk names for everything.
ooh,
Be like, yeah, our new chip, the Matsumoto Taka Drive, whatever. They're only $1,000.
but you want to build a computer for maximum forward compatibility and follow the RIM lifestyle of spend a lot of money on a crazy computer and then use it forever. Wait until September because August is when Skylake supposedly is going to come out. Skylake will have the most forward
All
compatibility.
right, think about this for a second. You look up in the sky, there's clouds and shit.
And
Then
a lake.
It's just water up there, but there's no ground holding the water into a lake shape. There's just water in a lake shape up in the sky.
And for once,
Birds are swimming in it, fish.
it's easy to fall into
Kids
the trap
peeing.
of September comes, ooh, Skylake.
Seaweed.
But you can look at Intel's roadmap, you can look at Wikipedia, and you can see Cannon Lake is coming. Cannon Lake is after Skylake.
Boom! Sploosh.
That's when they go down to 10 nanometers. 10.
All right.
10. Here's why this is not a problem. That's not coming out till 2017. So if you're going to upgrade in 2015. Don't wait 2 more years. So yeah,
The 10 nanometers will matter more in the laptop area.
well, yeah, the thing is Cannon Lake is a tick. It's not a huge change. They're just shrinking Skylake, basically.
Yeah, next it'll be Sky Ocean.
Yeah.
And
well,
then Cannon Ocean.
the
Arr.
successor, there's debate over the next successor, but it seems like Skylake is the confluence of chipsets are getting more modern, big changes in architecture, long cycle. Skylake is going to be the beginning of a long forward curve. So the computer I spec'd out that I'm linking
AMD,
to,
sorry, you suck now.
yeah, AMD is a
I mean,
non-entity.
You sort of got burned by, evil monopoly, but I mean, chips quality is the quality.
Yeah,
right?
guys, like when I installed a K7, like shit didn't work on the first boot. Thunderbird shit didn't work on the first boot. K6,
You know, I have a whole lot. Remember, I said I only had an Athlon. 1 out of my 4 computers is an AMD. I got a lot of AMD motherboards and a lot of AMD chips because that shit broke a lot.
Yep. Meanwhile, all my Intel stuff is 100% fine. In fact, when I buy my new computer, my existing one, super powerful still. I'm turning it into a dedicated Civ 5 pit boss server.
Okay, you do
It'll
that.
run that just fine.
Sure. It's a little overkill.
No, because you actually need a computer that can fully run Civ 5 as though you're playing it as a client to be a pit boss server because of poor architecture decisions.
Okay.
So you have to be a player to be a pit boss server.
Alrighty.
So yeah, I kind of do need it for that, which kind of sucks, but this has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.